Even though truly wireless earbuds are all the rage these days, besides AirPods, I still prefer to use wired earbuds at the gym because they usually have a longer battery life, their Bluetooth connectivity is much more stable, they cost less, and more importantly, you still have full media controls because of their inline controller. And since they came out 2 years ago, I've always really liked the Jaybird X3s, and I've never had a problem recommending them. But now we have the new Jaybird X4 and the more affordable Jaybird Tarah. They're not entirely new, but there are some upgrades worth talking about. The new Jaybird X4s currently retail for $129.99, which is what the X3s used to retail for, whereas the new Jaybird Tarah is a little more affordable with a retail price of $99.99. If you want to pick either of these earphones up, I'll have links in the description below, and if you use the links, it really helps out the channel. I highly suggest you check them out, because you never know when these earphones might go on sale. And also, check out the numeric shelf down below. At first glance, it's kind of hard to tell the difference between the Jaybird X3s, X4s, and Tarah because they look and perform very similarly to the X3s. And that's not a bad thing, the X3s are just that good. But first, let's talk about the included accessories because there is a noticeable difference. Just like the X3s, the X4s come included with a carrying pouch, and thankfully, the new carrying pouch is slightly bigger than the X3s, whereas the Jaybird Tarah don't come with a carrying pouch at all. Unlike the X3s, which come included with 3 sets of earphones, 3 sets of round silicone ear tips, 3 sets of Comply ear tips, and a few cable management clips, things have been a little streamlined with the X4s. You still get 3 sets of earphones, but now you only get 2 sets of oval silicone ear tips, 2 sets of Comply ear tips, and instead of cable management clips, the X4s now have a built-in fastener, which I personally find much easier to use. But there is still a clip so you can attach the access cable to your shirt. And finally, the Tarah come included with the least amount of hardware, and we're going to dive into their new ear tips in a few. You may have noticed by now that all 3 of these earphones also come included with proprietary charging cables, which is a double-edged sword. On one hand, it allows Jaybird to keep their inline controller and earbuds very low profile, because they don't need to add a USB-C port for charging. But it is one more cable to keep track of. Even though the X3 and X4 still use the same cradle to charge, the X4's updated cable is a little more refined. But unfortunately, Tarah doesn't use the same charging cradle as the X3 and X4, which I personally find a little odd. Tarah's inline controller is also very different from the inline controllers found on the X3 and X4. Even though it's slightly thinner, it's also slightly taller and wider. You have the same basic 3 control buttons with the same great tactile feedback, but I actually prefer Tarah's raised textured buttons because they're easier to tell apart just by feel. But all 3 of these earphones still have the same soft touch flat tangle-free cable, and even the earbuds on the X3 and X4 are identical. They're the same shape and they're the same size. But the earbuds on the Tarah are a little different from the earbuds on the X4. Tarah's earbuds are basically the same size as the X4's earbuds, but since they're a little angled, they do stick out a little more. But it's barely even noticeable. But perhaps the biggest and most noticeable difference between the new Jaybird Tarah and Jaybird X4 is going to be your customization options when it comes to fit and how you wear these earphones. The Jaybird Tarah have a similar system to what you would find on the Bose SoundSport 3. The ear tip and ear fin are all one piece and they're easy to take off and put on. But you can only wear these earphones one way. Personally, the medium ear tips fit me just fine and I haven't had any issues with them. But the X4s give you way more options when it comes to fit and how you wear these earphones, and that's kind of why the X3s were so popular. Since the ear tips and ear fins are 2 different pieces, you can mix and match until you get your perfect fit. Since the X4s also come included with Comply ear tips, you can use them if you want to get a more snug fit and more passive noise isolation than what the silicone ear tips can offer. But since I do find them to get a little itchy after a while, I just stick to silicone. And if you want, you don't even have to wear the ear fins at all. And if you want, you can also wear them in their over-ear style for an even more secure fit. What I'm getting at is the X4s give you more than enough options. But I do want to point out that the new ear fins on the X4s and Tarahs are slightly different from the ear fins from the previous X3. The new ear fins are slightly rounder and softer than the older ear fins, and I will admit that the new ear fins are less noticeable when you have them in. You don't feel them as much. But I do miss the pattern found on the older fins because to me it just looked way cooler. Okay, now with design and fit out of the way, let's talk about tech specs. Perhaps the biggest tech spec difference between the older X3 and the new X4 and Tarah is that Jaybird's new earphones are now IPX7 rated, which means they're waterproof down to 1 meter of water, but you can't use them for swimming because your Bluetooth connection is going to cut out. I tried. Now, this new IPX7 rating is nice to have, but personally, I've never really had a problem with my X3s, even after they were drenched in sweat on a regular basis. Battery life on the X3 and X4 is also the same. They both advertise an 8-hour battery life. I can go for 3 full workout sessions in between charges with the X4s, but the Tarahs do take a hit when it comes to battery life because these only have a 6-hour battery life. So these can only go for 2 workout sessions and then they'll die midway through my third. But Jaybird's new earphones also now feature quick charging, so if you charge either of these earphones up for 10 minutes from a dead battery, they're going to get you 1 hour of playback time. It's not huge, but it is a step up from the X3s. But just like all of Jaybird's other earbuds, both the X4 and Tarah connect to Jaybird's music app. Out of the box, these earphones have a flat sound signature, but through the app, you can go in and adjust the EQ to make them sound however you want. And since the new EQ setting is getting uploaded directly to the earbuds, your EQ setting will follow you from device to device. So if you want, you can make these earbuds have just as much or even more bass and power beats, or you can make them have an emphasis on vocals. The choice is yours. And in general, Jaybirds are one of the better sounding earphones out there. They have good clarity, deep punchy bass, and there's rarely any tinning in the highs. But obviously, you're not going to get audiophile sound quality out of these earbuds, but for working out, they're perfectly fine. And to control your music playback, you have an inline controller on both of these earbuds. Now, like I said earlier, the reason I like using wired earbuds like these over truly wireless earbuds at the gym is because you have full control over your music playback. With most truly wireless earbuds, you only have partial control and you have to rely on your voice assistant for the rest. And I find that having to use your voice assistant isn't as accurate, as fast, or as easy as having a dedicated button sometimes. The only thing I don't like about Jaybird's controller is that you have to press and hold the plus or minus button to skip a track or go back a track. I would prefer it if we could double press and triple press the center button. But instead, if you double press the center button on the X4s, you will redial your last phone call. And honestly, since the microphone on both the X4 and Tarah make you sound pretty far away, I just want to take phone calls with either of these headphones. Personally, I would actually really like if we could remap what double pressing the center button on the X4 does through Jaybird's app. Because double pressing the center button on the Jaybird Tarah will instead summon your voice assistant, and personally I prefer this over redialing my last phone call. So if you need to talk to Siri or Google Assistant, they're just 2 taps away on the Jaybird Tarah. But overall, besides some cosmetic changes and marginally better tech specs, there really isn't a big difference between the Jaybird X3 and the new Jaybird X4. And that's not a bad thing, the X3s are just that good. If it ain't broken, don't fix it. If you have the X3s and if they're working just fine, then there's no need to upgrade. But the X4s do bring with them a slightly more comfortable fit, an IPX7 rating, and fast charging. Now, if you're trying to choose between the X4 and the Tarah, then yeah, you're still better off going with the X4s because they have a slightly better battery life, they give you more fit options, and they bring that all-important carrying case. But the Tarah are still fine for budget-conscious people. You're getting the same sound quality and the same build quality. But personally, I would actually like to see Jaybird incorporate the raised tactile buttons from the Tarah on the X4. Tarah's buttons are just much easier to tell apart, and I really want to be able to remap what the center button does on the X4. If you made it this far, I guess you enjoyed the video, so hit that like button and get subscribed. It helps out more than you realize. Support the channel by clicking on the links down below, and I'll catch you next time.